Clover Overboard represents a dying breed of band scarcely seen in the wild these days, but most often to be found in college towns. When I arrived in Lethbridge as a student in 2016, I discovered for the first time a vibrant local music scene. The neat thing facilitated by being in an environment oriented towards a student population is the abundance of affordable housing and creative young people with flexible schedules. Clover Overboard represents a group of like minds in an environment where they were able to find each other and where they didn't need to ask anyone's permission. If you'll allow me onto my soapbox for a moment, bands like these are what the world needs more of. If you can stumble into the Slice on a weeknight and see a band who maybe look and sound like you do, doing the thing that you want to do, that may be all that you need to take the next step and try. You can tell from hanging out with these cats that they are a group of genuine friends having fun together. It's important not to forget that it's supposed to be fun. I get the sense that this band exists for personal joy and catharsis. All the best ones do.
Cool.
Shoulders, the night gets colder. We could sleep this off, or we could run that town. I'll be your rock and roller. Take me with you, and your heart is big as a boulder. We can collect wrinkles from our smiles as we get older. All that I want right now is for you to take me far out of town. All that I want right now is for you to sing for me when no one's around. Run with me, play down with me, oh, from sea to road. Underneath that spell, it seems dangerous.
Okay, do we want to clap?
Yeah, maybe I'll just do a camera rolling, audio rolling.
Okay.
And I'll do maybe you do a clap.
Okay.
So one more time.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah.
A camera rolling, B camera rolling.
Audio is rolling. All right. Well, welcome to the Weird in High School video podcast. I am your host, Bretton Lee John, and today I'm joined by Alex Ann of Clover Overboard. This one's fun because we haven't met before. I haven't heard your band play before. I'm coming in. I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think of the school appropriate terminology, but I'm coming in unseasoned.
It'll be a big surprise.
How would you describe your band? Let's say 3 words to describe Clover Overboard.
3 words. Well, we usually go with Celtic punk rock, but our style kind of varies quite a bit from that. Like, we started off, our goal was, let's start a Celtic punk band. But when you look at all the Celtic punk bands, they're usually like, you know, your Flogging Molly and your Dropkick Murphys. They're pretty, like, aggressive, I guess. And they have, like, an older man with a really gravelly voice. And that's not me. I'm the lead singer, and I'm just a small little thing. So that's something that kind of differentiates us right away. But then also, some of our songs fit that genre, and some of them don't really at all. Like, we're still kind of finding our style, but that's probably the best 3 words for the time being.
The Celtic thing, it's a little like it's pretty niche, and I'm interested in how someone comes to want to inhabit that niche, but also how much you have to push the limits of that niche to be able to make music that is more than a like I guess what I'm alluding to is how do you make a discography a complete set of work around something that I feel like, and not to insult the people who are enthusiastic listeners of people like Dropkick Murphys, but how do you make something that is more appealing than like St. Patrick's Day? How do you feel about that whole matrix?
Yeah, that's totally fair. So I think our way around that is we just write music and then we throw in the Celtic flair afterwards for a lot of our songs. There's at least a couple that were written specifically like with the Celtic theme in mind. Like our first single, Like the Sea, we wrote that specifically for the band, and like the lyrics talk about, you know, being from Newfoundland and like the magic of music and like how the fiddle is just like such a magical little sound and stuff. So, and then our second single there was Hurricanes. That was along the same lines. But then a lot of our other songs are just, you know, regular songs that just happen to have a fiddle and like happen to have a drum beat that kind of lets us fit into that vibe, I suppose.
Do you have maritime origins?
I'm from Newfoundland, yeah.
Okay. You, I don't know. I find the Newfies lately are surprising me. They're sneaking under the radar.
Yeah.
That you have a whole conversation with them, and not once do they mention being the bi, building a boat or sailing it.
Yeah. Doesn't come up as often as you'd think. Yeah. Plus, I don't really even have the accent. Like, I was just home for a visit for 2 weeks, and I find when I go home, I usually pick up a bit of my accent, but I don't know, maybe not this time, or maybe it's like only while I'm there. I don't know. It's a tricky thing. I never really got it probably because I'm a townie, as they say. If you're like from St. John's, you're a townie, whereas if you're from anywhere at around the bay, you get more of the accent.
So what's the mix like in Newfoundland in terms of like just about anywhere you go? It seems like if you go to the city, you don't get the full experience of culture. Like I definitely, when we were in Dublin, I was just wondering where the Irish accents were. You're being served by people from all over the world, but then you get out to, you go to Letterkenny and you're going to hear actual Irish people. I do find that same thing applies across the board. What is the cultural significance of the urban rural separation in Newfoundland?
Yeah, I guess there is a lot of that. Like, people will especially move to St. John's first if they were to move to Newfoundland. There's not really many other hubs that you would just be drawn to if you were just to move there, out of the blue. But yeah, like once you go out around the bay, that's when you start to hear people that actually sound like they're Irish. And then when you get them come into St. John's, they're working at the pubs, and then you start to think like, oh, is this person Irish too? But no, they're just from the Irish Loop. I don't remember what your question was though.
Have you seen there's YouTube videos where Irish people talk to Newfies? Have you seen any of that stuff?
Not recently, no.
It's funny. It's funny watching Irish people have their minds blown by hearing this accent, but it's probably in terms of, and I know I'm digging into culture here, but I think it's so much of what makes music.
Yeah.
Is the culture behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It feels to me like probably Canada's most unique cultural offering to the world, and out of such a small population, and kind of people in Alberta complain about the East not caring about them, but the Maritimes really get the short end of the stick when it comes to national recognition.
Yeah, it is definitely, I would say, the most unique. Like, it feels like another country a lot of the times too. Like, yeah.
So how do you end up in Lethbridge, Alberta, of all places?
Well, it was a roundabout course. So left St. John's when I was like 20, and then I did the ski bum thing for a while. So I lived in like Kelowna, Jasper, and Fernie. So I knew that I liked the Rockies. And then I decided to go back to St. John's for school. And I did a 2-year program at College of the North Atlantic, and then I wanted to go back to the mainland. So I just looked at different places that transferred, and University of Lethbridge just happened to have a program that like went directly from my program, and it also, is close to the mountains too. So it's just like Lethbridge is just a really nice place to be in terms of it's got great weather. I don't mind the wind because I'm from St. John's, and it's got so much sun, and it's close to the mountains. It's just like the perfect little place for adventure.
Do you where do you go ski? Do you spend a lot of time at Castle?
Yeah, mostly Castle now.
Yeah, I miss going to Castle on weekdays, being close enough, because you get the right day and skip class, and you can.
Yeah.
I mean, the lifts take a long time, but the lift lines are short, and I've had like heli skiing style days there with the snow they can get.
That'd be nice. I haven't had really days like that in Castle. That was more Fernie for me. Because when I was living there, I was working at the resort, so like I get to go on my lunch breaks and stuff. That was pretty fun. But
there's an interesting crossover between, I would say, a crossover between the kind of Celtic punk world and the quote action sports world.
Interesting.
Do you feel like any of that has influenced your musical tastes? I definitely thinking of like I can think of ski movies that have shipping up to Boston in them, and mountain bike flicks and stuff.
I hadn't thought of that, but I mean, it definitely makes sense. They're like pretty high energy songs. Just definitely makes sense, yeah.
So musically, where are some of the surprising influences in your repertoire? It seems like everyone's got that like left field, I was inspired to write by someone you wouldn't have anticipated.
I don't know, mine are pretty expected, I guess. Like Flogging Molly is personally my main influence, and then after that I really like Hey Rosetta. They were a band from St. John's, so again, not a huge surprise. But I think our style actually is probably more similar to them than it is to Flogging Molly, just in terms of the overall style, I suppose, and like the instruments involved. We don't have near as many instruments as Flogging Molly, but other influences, I can't think of any that are just like surprising right now. I guess I really like ska punk, but that's related to Celtic punk. And
Yeah.
I do love the energy there. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like the big similarity between all of the music that I like. There's like lots of energy, and then it pulls away, and then it comes back, and then it's just like solo instruments for a little bit, and it's just like always changing and always keeping you on your toes, I guess. That's what I really like.
Yeah, music that's got, I guess what I'm hearing is music with a certain kind of rhythmic energy to it. And yeah, definitely the punk as a suffix is an interesting thing. Like, I've gone down I mean, there's so many subgenres of
Yeah.
punk.
Yeah, I do not know them all.
Cowpunk, and you got your, yeah, I would risk offending too many punks by
fair.
attempting to dive into the minutia of,
Yeah.
of punk separation. So,
Lindsay would know all about that. She used to play in a punk band that's like actual punk.
but
yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of punks that would say that's not real punk. This is punk. It's like, it's such
Who
a,
knows?
it is a funny thing where it's like, it's a culture that is about being opposite to the mainstream and inclusive of itself, but then it is so fragmented and siloed
Yeah.
within itself,
Yeah, that's true.
which you kind of, I feel like, don't, well, maybe that happens in other worlds, but you definitely don't see as much in, there's not a million subgenres of country.
Yeah,
It's like,
I guess that's true.
you got like country on the radio, and then you got the rest of it. But,
Yeah. Yep.
But definitely, yeah, there's something about rock music as a whole that likes to fragment itself into a million places.
Yeah. Too much to keep up with. Don't ask me about specific ones, because I'll just be like, sure.
So, upon landing in Lethbridge, how do you come to get connected with the rest of the gang, and how do you get, I guess, a group of people together and go, I want to make this Celtic punk band, and find a group of people that go, heck yeah, I want to make a Celtic punk band with you?
Yeah, so it started off, Lindsay and I were co-workers. We'd been working together for like 4 years or something, and then we only started talking about starting a band like towards the end of our time at that place. And yeah, we just kind of had mentioned it a couple times, but it wasn't really like talked about a whole lot. But then one day we just kind of decided, I was like, yeah, I want to actually do this. She was like, yeah, I'm in. And then by that point, I had already met Meg, our lead guitar player. I met Meg at a band swap that the Lethbridge Girls Rock Camp was hosting as a fundraiser. So what happens with that is everyone signs up for a band swap, put their names in a hat, and then you pull names from the hat, and you just get like paired into a random band, and you have 2 weeks to put a set together. So Meg and I were in a band for that, and we gelled, we got along, and so I asked them to join after that, and they were pretty stoked. And then it was the three of us for like maybe not quite a year, maybe like 9 months or something like that. I don't really know. But it was after that that we met Alina and Nolan. So Alina plays fiddle or violin, depending on the day, and Nolan plays bass. And so I'd gone to some open mics just like with the intention of recruiting band members, because I was like, we have started a Celtic punk band or whatever, but we don't have any Celtic instruments. So that was a necessity. So I was like really wanted to find some people. And I met Alina at an open mic at a little coffee shop called Pedal, Paws and Beans, who actually, the owner of that coffee shop, owns this venue, which is gorgeous. They're both lovely spots. And yeah, I'd gone and seen her play a few times, and then eventually we got to talking, and when I had gone up at that open mic, I said, hey, I have a band. Does anybody want to join me? And she was interested, and then we met for coffee, and then she asked, do you also need a bass player? And I said, yes, please. And then she brought Nolan. And yeah, we are really stoked. I'm just so very grateful for like every individual person in the band because they're all so talented. They're like way better at music than me. Like I can't even read music, but Alina has like a master's in music. So it's a pretty big variety for like, I don't know, all of our different things that we bring to the band. And it's been really fun. I'm just really grateful for everybody.
I definitely think being a vocalist and a songwriter, it's pretty typical to have the least technical knowledge in the room of music.
Good. That's comforting.
Like, I definitely, the only reason I started learning anything about theory was when I was playing with people that, like, my bandmates would go, oh yeah, it does the 1 down to the diminished 6, and then I'd be like,
Words and
yes,
stuff.
sure. And but it did compel me to start learning some of that stuff. But it definitely there's I'm gonna misquote it, but I've heard many different versions of if you are the best musician in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Oh yeah, okay. That's fair.
That yeah, it's definitely it's something I find really interesting about in an era when bands are decreasingly common and quote producers are way more common, that collaboration it often does amount to something more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, and that's
If you've got it seems like every drummer I know is actually better at guitar than the guitarist in every band they're into. Like, when you get those people involved and they can make suggestions and have a level of musical communication, that's when you can take, I don't know, I find there's this matrix between, like, if you get a pretty rawly emotional songwriter in with a bunch of people who know the number stuff, that's where you can take the raw emotion and add the technical aspect to it and really elevate songs to their maximum potential.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because for the majority of our songs right now, it has been me bringing like the structure of the song and the lyrics and the melody and whatnot, and then just bringing it to the band, and then everyone else fills it out with their individual parts. Obviously, they write their own solos and everything, but we're moving more towards a collaborative like approach of songwriting now. So like we just do like random jams, and I just get to see how good they are at jumping in like everywhere, and it's so impressive. And like that's already come up with like a couple new songs already just from like random improv stuff, and then it's just a completely different way of writing for myself, but I'm really looking forward to it because like you said, you get to see all of the different talents come out as opposed to just like one person bringing something that's already finished.
Yeah. And I mean, is it ever really finished either in that kind of setting? Like, do you find things, you go out and play them and iterate and change songs?
Yes, all the time.
So in terms of, Lethbridge has a pretty vibrant gig scene.
Yeah.
Compared to lots of places. Like, definitely punches above its weight. I can think of as many worthwhile venues in Lethbridge as there are in Calgary, which is 10 times the size.
Yeah.
What kind of spots do you guys end up playing around town, and where do you like to play most?
The two places we play the most currently are the Slice and the Owl. Oh, hello, puppy. Let's see. We played at Theory Brew a couple times. Yeah, we really, really like all of them. They've all been really, really great to us. The Slice especially, they had us hosting open mics for a little bit there. I think it was maybe the beginning of this year. But that was kind of some of our first shows that we had as a band. And Derek just was like, yeah, have at her. And even before that, we did like a 15-minute set at the Owl during the Quaint, Quirky, and Queer Cabaret. So that was like our very first time on stage. That was when it was just the three of us. So people have just been really nice at just like giving us a shot. And it's worked out so far.
What kind of stuff, what have you learned at this point in playing music that if you could impart a lesson to yourself at the start of forming this band, what's a lesson you'd share?
My biggest thing that I try to remember right now is that this is the reward. So in terms of when you're in a band, there's all these goals. I like to plan, so I make goals. We have band meetings. We have like certain projects that are on the go, whether it's recording or like practicing for a show. That can all get kind of cloudy and a little bit, makes you anxious, or it can make you stressed. But what I like to remember and what I like to like say to the band before we do shows is like, this is the reward. We get to play music together every week when we jam, and every time we get on stage together, that is like a prize in itself. So don't worry about trying to do like a perfect show or trying to say all the right things. Just have fun, because in 10 years from now, who knows where we're all going to be. And just enjoy it.
There's a Tom Sachs thing where he says the reward for doing your job as an artist is more work. The reward for good work is more work. And it's definitely, I think, as long as you can stay in that mindset, then you'll have satisfaction in terms of if you play a good gig and it books the next gig. That's an attainable and sustainable way to approach it. But well, it's been great to get to chat with you, and I look forward to getting to hear you guys play.